Hey there YouTube, I'm Yukitsu, this is the Yukitsu Times, welcome to my channel, welcome to Total War Warhammer. So, I'm just going to give you guys a representative example of what quick battle is like for this game. Now, I actually do multiple takes on my faction videos, so I don't actually show you, for example, well actually, no, I would have shown you guys a loss if it was an interesting one, but if it's like one where I just don't really play the match because it's nothing but White Kings, I don't really show that, but I wanted to show you guys just 3 random quick battles in order. Win or lose, and just to show you sort of what the playing is like, what the meta looks like, what sort of people are like in the quick battle ladder. Now, it's not necessarily going to be 100% representative, because I'm not 100% sure how the quick battle matchmaker works, but I am a little bit high ranked in this game. I think that this glitched out, but we'll find out in just a second here. I might have to cancel, go back, and then hit quick battle again. There's a little bit of a bug as far as that goes that's existed since the beginning of goddamn time. So, okay, we're up against an Imperial player who has basically insta-locked that. We're going to go ahead and play Greenskins. I do think that they're a fairly strong faction. We're going to take Azag the Slaughterer, of course, and we're going to back him up with a Night Goblin Shaman, and we're going to use the Night Goblin to zone out our opponent there. Now, our opponent does have the opportunity to take lots of things that are going to be hard for me to deal with, like Demigryph Knights. Are quite difficult to deal with, but we are going to take some Orc Biggins, we're going to take some Arrow Boys, we're going to take the Orc Boar Boy Biggins, which are a great counter against those sort of units that the Empire likes to take. We're going to take some of these Goblin Wolf Riders. We got a few of those Black Orcs as well, which are a good addition to any sort of a force for the Orcs and Goblins. Actually, let's not take these guys. Let's take the Goblin Wolf Rider Archers. I think that that's going to be a good addition. You know what? We don't need the Arrow Boys. We're just going to take the Goblin Archers for a little bit to sort of discount there. And another unit of the Orc Biggins. They're going to counter any sort of cavalry that tries to get around me, and that's going to be the way it is. Now, the Empire is a very, very powerful faction. I would argue that they're currently the strongest faction in the game, and that makes it actually quite difficult to beat them in some contexts. Like, it's almost impossible for me to predict what he's going to be taking in this one. Here I'm assuming that he might take some great swords, so I've got 4 Black Orc units, but 4 Black Orcs isn't enough if my opponent goes really hard on the great swords, and my Biggins aren't actually a great counter unit against him. I could have taken Savage Orc Biggins, which are a little bit better against things like great swords, but not substantially so. They still lose against them, I find. So I'm kind of banking on that. If my opponent takes Demigryph Knights, I've got a counter against it, but I don't have a counter if he takes 4 of them. I think that that's a little bit too much. He's taking Swordsmen. That's a little bit peculiar. I don't think that they're necessarily great, but if you are going to take them, Orcs are the ones you would take them against. They do a really great job of tying up and beating things like Goblins, and they even beat things like Orc Boys. It's just that they won't win against things like Biggins, and they won't win against things like the Black Orcs, which will chew through them like butter. So our goal in this game is to sort of target really high priority enemies. We're going to counter-assassinate with the Night Goblin if we have to, and we're going to try and wreck their high elite units while pushing through their melee line. If they've got a melee line consisting of things like swordsmen, it shouldn't be actually a very difficult one to push through. We have got great swords though, so they have got some quality there. If they've got too many great swords, I can expect to lose in a straight up melee push, although if they've got like 4 great swords and then say 4 swordsmen, then I can do okay. The problem is what's the rest of his army, because he'll outnumber me. One of the things that I can do is use Curse of the Bad Moon if he's got a very compact formation before I go in there. The duration of the debuff on that is so hideously long that it can actually deal substantial damage to him before I go in there, but we're going to lead off with the Black Orcs in this particular case. We want them spread out just a little bit, not too much. We want the these guys right behind. They're our counter to cavalry, essentially, along with the Boar Boys. Now, Boar Boys, if they get the good charge, will crush Imperial Knights, so they can work for that purpose, but they're also good against armor in general, so I can use them as a counter to the great swords if I have to. I'm looking for some terrain that I can pop these guys in, get them around behind, try and be a nuisance with those later on in the game. Put them in that forest over there. It's going to make them quite valuable at getting at our opponent. Now, I put my units on the ground because a good Empire player can, and often, in my case, will take something like an Imperial Captain as well as their General, and if they do that, then they can just dominate the air and crush Azag if he takes the Skull Muncher, meaning that he'll just instantly get killed by that. Now, we have got a fairly high winds of magic in this particular case. One of the problems with orcs, though, is that they don't get replenishment. One of the things that I don't mind about this, though, is that Azeg doesn't actually require that much replenishment because he's still a really good warrior, meaning that you don't have to worry about the fact that you're sort of getting down on that. My opponent here has got a great cannon. It's going to actually be pretty difficult to deal with. We're going to spread our lines out, thin them out as much as possible. Here you can see those shots coming in through my black orcs. Very, very powerful hits. Looks like my opponent is coming in to assassinate. He's got 2 goddamn light wizards. That's a little bit weird. Alright, let's get our Night Goblin to try and pick up this guy. Now, Azeg himself is... oh shit. In a bit of a pickle here if my opponent gets... let's hit these guys up. Yeah, he's going for Azeg pretty hard here. Yep. Alright, so let's get around with these guys. Let's get around with these guys. Still bring them in. I should have had them in closer just in case this happened. So the thing is, Azeg is getting a little bit of cover from the resulting units around him, meaning that he's not taking quite as much damage as he could be. Let's go ahead and hit this guy with another one of these. And then let's hit him with one of these vindictive glares. Alright, so... let's see what our opponent is actually moving forward here with. Let's get these guys. Azeg is still getting pummeled, but that's okay. Our opponent spent 1,000, 2,000 points-ish to try and kill him, so that is perfectly fine by me. Now, the Black Orcs, I can sort of charge them in like this, and they'll actually do okay. Are those demigryphs? Those are indeed demigryphs, so I need to bring these guys across this way. Oh. Let's get one of our units of Wolf Riders over here. Let's get our Shaman in. Alright, so this fight is going to go as it's going to go. Let's go get this guy up here. Now, swordsmen in these cases are going to suffer a little bit, but Demigryph Knights are coming in. Now, one of the things that is a little bit peculiar is that I don't actually lose this matchup all in terms of money efficiency in particular. Demigryph Knights lose quite badly to Orc Boar Biggins, especially if I get the charge and he doesn't, as is the case here, giving me a really big lead on that. Let's get these guys up here. We want them near that cannon. If we can get them up near that cannon, switch them to melee mode. Let's try and take out Carl Friends. Get these guys in there. Alright, so this charge will deal some damage to these guys. We've lost one, but they're stuck in combat now with these Biggins. Don't have enough magic to do another spell of any sort, but you might be able to use Fate of Juna or something like that. Where did our goblins go? Alright, so melee mode. There we go. Melee mode these guys. Get into these Demigryph Knights from behind again. Get another charge. Get Azeg to throw out a Spirit Leech against their general. It doesn't matter so much what the wizard's doing anymore. He's relatively irrelevant. Looks like they blew up my general. Looks like I got off the Spirit Leech, though, just in time. This is going to hurt morale quite badly, but that's okay. Let's actually try and kill this guy first. Make sure that they don't get back onto the field. We want to make sure that the units that are routing on my opponent's side don't actually get back into the fight. Getting some lag here. It's okay, though. This little goblin here is not going to be that useful, but we can just run him into a fight or something. It doesn't really make a difference. Let's go ahead and charge these guys if we can. Yeah, these demigryphs with halberds are pretty poorly off. Alright, so let's get these guys into this fight here. Okay, so that one unit of demigryph knights is now shattered. Going to try and get around behind these greatswords here, that cluster of them. It's going to be quite deadly otherwise. Greatswords have, or my black orcs have gotten through there quite effectively. Now, I do have anti-armor on my, on these guys here, and their charge is actually going to be quite good in this context as well, so this charge is going to be quite effective at damaging these greatswords. Let's go ahead and get these guys to start firing at Karl Franz as well, or whatever that is. I don't know what leader they picked. Looks like he's about to flee, and that is a close victory for us. Alright, so that's one of those battles, reliant very heavily on assassination cheese, and you can see that while it did work, it didn't win him the fight. He overinvested in it, overinvested in demigryphs, and I had a good counter to it, so he did lose out on that. I mean, I had a very cost-efficient build as far as defeating those sorts of units. I was worried about him taking more great swords, honestly. That would be my biggest fear. If he took about 6 of them, I'd have a very hard time defeating that army with what I've got here, especially if he had some spearmen stretched around the back. So if he had a more economical, efficiency-focused one instead of this assassination cheese with Karl Franz, great swords, and demigryph knights, I could have much more easily lost this, but instead, you know, I've only had 329 losses, and I've taken more troops than him. So that's our first battle out of 3. So that's something that you'll see quite often. The Empire very, very strong, but they rely too heavily on that kind of stuff. Or at least many players do. I don't personally, and I find that I'm much more successful because of it. Because if I'm up against a good opponent, then I'm not going to, I'm going to struggle. I'm going to play as Bretonnia in this one. I do think that Bretonnia has interesting options because they can go for air. King Lowen Leoncor on his Imperial Pegasus. Let's go ahead, or his on Gequus. Let's go ahead and take double paladins in the air. I think that that's actually a fairly decent option against the Empire in some respects. We're going to take 5 units of these spearmen arms, and we're going to take a good number of peasant bowmen backing them up. We'll take 6 units of spearmen at arms, actually. The problem is going to be if my opponent takes a lot of armor. Going to take a couple of units of Pegasus Knights. Not sure if there's too many of them. Now, again, we're worried about assassination sort of bullshit, and the thing is that Bretonnia has such weak magic that I'm just not going to worry about taking a damsel or anything like that. I think that you can get along just fine without them. But if they do have them in the air, I can just sort of air rush them with all my air units, and I can even lock down their missile units while I'm rushing those units down. Can get in, cause a real mess of things. The problem is going to be defeating armored units, and the paladins are actually pretty decent at that sort of thing, but you know, it's not exactly ideal. There's nothing in the roster that's ideal for that. Even the halberdiers are poor anti-infantry in many regards. We're going to go ahead and just fill out a roster with an extra spearman at arms. We'll go ahead and upgrade a couple of these units, and then we'll go ahead and hit ready. We'll unhit ready just in case. If our opponent switches factions at the last second, we'll dodge out by returning to the main menu. And that is something that people do. Alright, so looks like my opponent is actually willing to play as the Empire. The reason that I do that is if it goes down below like a certain threshold and he switches, it becomes very hard to hit the ready and then back button. But it doesn't look like that's necessary here. Now, my opponent is going to have the ability to just crush me if he takes superior infantry. If he takes lots of swordsmen and light cavalry, then I'm utterly stuffed, but that's not what people take. So we do have the ability to crush our opponent if he relies too much on demigryph knights, but it's going to be difficult to beat them. The only thing is that if we've got such a strong spear line that they are actually pretty okay value against those sorts of things. You need to charge in with like a hero or two, focus all of your heroes and lords into one unit. You can deal a lot of damage to them and potentially get some cheeky early kills. And once they're driven off the field, you know, they're driven off the field usually with very, very low health. You can charge them with Knights of the Realm at that point in time. Even though they're a vastly superior unit than those Knights of the Realm, you can get in there and deal a lot of damage. So hopefully this will go well. This is one of those matchups that I think is one of the harder ones. Bretonnia is a weak faction, but I think that they can manage just because like they don't have to worry too much about assassins. Just keep Lowen Leoncor relatively far back, and if your opponent really rushes in forward, you can sort of pelt them, counterattack with the champions. And if you tries really hard and actually gets hits on low and lane core, just keep him in the back and he'll regenerate health. So not only that, but the 12% damage reduction that he's got is pretty decent. You do want him with your army though, so you can't have him like ranging far away from your stuff to get protection from something or to run away from stuff, because like he is what keeps your line together much more so than other generals. Very, very important to keep him with your lines. Is like the 12% damage reduction on top of your like spearman's already decent defensive statistics lets them tank out against things that they really should not be able to. Alright, let's go ahead and line our guys up like this. As such, we're going to go ahead and put our Brettonian knights kind of in the woods over here. I do think that I want flanking cavalry in this particular case. We'll have flyers ready and willing to go. Have a strong lineup of archers just behind our spears. Actually, we're not going to have this many spears up front. We're going to have 2 stretched out behind, and they're going to be rear guard, and then the other 5 here are going to be our front line. And that will be a little bit thinned out, but it'll be a little bit more efficient in some situations. Let's take our paladins and have them sort of back here. Alright, so actually we'll have our flying circus over on this side over here. We'll have our center over here. Soft group these guys, soft group these guys. Alright. So what has our opponent got here? He's got 3 units of Demigryph Knights, some of them with halberds, some of them without. He's got an Empire Captain. He's got his general over there. Alright. So we're going to go ahead and charge multiple things into this captain over here. He's got swordsman, spearman, swordsman, 2 units of crossbowmen, and spearmen with shields. Now, the nice thing about this is that those Demigryph Knights can't actually do diddly squat against my sort of air raid here. Lune Leoncourt is actually a slightly stronger lord than Karl Franz, so I can actually get away with this quite well. He's trying to run back so that I run into his gun line, but I'm going to sort of move around like this. Now, he's got outriders that were over here, but they've decided to run away. I'm not going to chase them. Well, he's faster than me, so I have no real particular reason to chase there. Now, if I get into a skirmisher fight with him, I'll win, because he's only got really 1 dedicated skirmisher type unit. The rest of them are kind of situational ones. But if I also attack at the same time with everything, he can't cover his air units, and I can pick off his general with this big air wing. So we're going to go ahead and get ready for that. Alright, so let's move these guys over to here. Oh, he's trying to move those handgunners over towards my air wing, try and get some shots off against them. Here you can see he's gotten a little bit too close though, and that's going to be a lot of arrow fire into that unit of outriders that drops basically immediately. Definitely more worth it for me than it was for him. Alright. So, we will want to move up a bit here. Those Demigryph Knights have moved over to this flank over here. And I am willing to countercharge with the Demigryph Knights, and then follow in with the Hero Goon Squad, and then Spears. Especially if I can get the charge off of against him, then that would be very, very nice. Let's move these 2 bowmen over this way. Let's move these archers up. Let's move you guys sort of face.
Doing our duty.
Alright, so this hotkey is going to go over this way. That unit of handgunners is out.
Paladin of Bretonnia.
Where the hell are those Demigryphs all going? Are they all sort of up there? Looks like it. Looks like their general is taking some arrow fire, which is okay because the misses are heading towards the rest of his lines there. Alright. You can see him staggering as he tries to advance, which is really hilarious to me. Alright, let's get you guys, try and charge these guys down. I don't think he's paying attention to them right now. Alright, let's get our archers all firing at this unit of crossbowmen. Oh dear, the lag here. Dealt a little bit of damage to those Demigryphs with halberds too, which is really nice. Let's go ahead and start firing at these guys. Let's take group 3, the whole thing, start charging up that general since our missile units are now engaged with his missile units, making it a little bit safer for me to run that sort of gamut there. And let's run this guy towards their Empire Captain as well. Actually, no, I want him near our lines. Alright, so we've just about killed the one unit of guys there. Let's move this guy around the flank. Let's move these guys around the flank as well. We've moved into a furious death ball here. Alright, so they've started firing though at those guys. I'm going to charge cavalry around towards them. Those guys are never going to catch that sort of bullshit, so let's go ahead and charge this guy into there. Alright, so we need to move a couple of our spearmen over this way. Alright, so just about wipes out that one captain there. Let's get one of our units of Pegasus Knights over there. Let's get one. Let's go ahead and start charging up these guys. All our units are sort of getting collapsed on though, so it's going to be a bad time for them. Is their general dead yet or gone yet? Okay, we're gonna get this guy out of here. Now, our units are breaking on fairly high numbers, so we're not too worried about this. These knights should not be in this fight, however. Alright, so now Demigryph Knights do quite well against Low and Lean Corps, so this is going to be dangerous for him, but I do think that he's going to be able to hold them off for quite a while. You guys need to get out of there. I need to get some archers back into the fight so that they can start firing at these guys. Spearman arms, get back into this fight. Alright, so I think their general is gone. Let's get you guys over there. Now, our lines are chain routing here, so this is actually pretty bad for us. We have a high chance of losing just because the Bretonnian morale is so low. And Low and Lean Corps is off the fight as well, so... Alright, let's try and salvage this as best as we can, though. If he lives, then we should be relatively okay. Alright, we'll tie them up, try and get back into the fight. Alright, we'll chase this guy off the field at the very least, even if we can't... Alright, yeah, we didn't catch him, but we did chase him off the field. We are starting to see my lines rallying somewhat. Low and Lean Corps is still fleeing, unfortunately. Oh, and my opponent has withdrawn. I don't think that he necessarily would have lost that. He did still have quite a lot of troops on the field, but I think that, I guess, the remaining heroes that I had were just going to be a little bit too much for him. Demigryph Knights, these were the non-halberd ones, and those were a smart choice. Those swordsmen did pretty okay at holding their line, but he had too much veterancy put in that. Without the generals, though, I think that that was what really sort of tipped him over the edge there and forced him off the field. A lot of my units, as you can see, still had a lot of health, so they were rallying, and once my lines rallied, stabilized, and my paladins came back into the fight, my general Low and Lean Corps would have probably have gotten back into the fight. If I had gotten them sort of centered back again, the remaining Demigryphs and the remaining Spearmen would have been no problem for me to mop up, so that was... he had to try and kill me before that could happen. I guess it wasn't happening fast enough, though. Alright, so that's 2. That was a really bad match for me. Like, my opponent should have been able to win that, and I think he actually had the tools to actually beat me there. I didn't cover my backline quite as well as I should have, and frankly, like, it's amazing that I didn't get crushed as faster than I even did. Still, was an interesting match. I should have focused actually all my archer power on his melee units, because I was going to clean up his ranged units with my cavalry anyway. We're going to play this one as the Warriors of Chaos. I think that they're the weakest faction by far, so if I win this, it's going to require a miracle. To be frank, I'm going to take Chaos Sorcerer Lord, or Chaos Sorcerer of Fire. In this particular case, I think that that's actually a really strong choice for Warriors of Chaos right now. Bardic Chaos Steed I could take. It helps out a little bit, but he's already overcosted by quite a bit, so it's a dangerous choice. If my opponent is Bretonnia, then it's hard for me to pick anything in particular. Forsaken are pretty good against them, though, so I'll take 4 of them, maybe. Oh, no, he's playing as Undead, so things change up quite a bit when you're playing against Undead. It's tricky to actually figure out what you want to take to beat Undead. Like, they've got such strong units. Actually, I will take 4 units of Forsaken. They're high leadership, decent armor, and high weapon strength. Lets them cleave through really cheap units really effectively. I've been theorizing that something like the Chaos Giants are actually going to be really good against the way Undead get played currently. We're going to switch that out for the Chaos Sorcerer of Death because I think that'll be a better deterrent to stop my opponent from assassinating my general, and we are going to take Exalted Heroes on Manticores. This leaves us with a very small army so far. I don't really know what else to take, though. We're going to take some Chaff of Marauders. They're going to keep around our back line, just protect us in that sense there. Our general actually on the Manticore might be a good idea, but I do want to keep him on the ground. We'll take a Chaos Steed for this guy just so that he can keep up a little bit with our Exalted Hero, and we'll use the 2 of them to try and stop the enemy from just pounding away at our general. Alright, so this is a bad composition, I think, but we're in a bad matchup, but we'll see how things go. I do think that the Giants are going to be a good way to counter Crypt Horrors, and the fact that I'm not relying too heavily on my Chaos Warriors to defeat them is going to be good, but I think that they're going to rip through the Forsaken really easily. It's just that the Forsaken will rip through the zombies really quickly, and then the Giants will be able to tear through the Crypt Horrors. It's just that he'll outnumber me with Crypt Horrors as well, so nothing is really going to be great here. I think that this is all around just a really bad matchup. Maybe I should have taken Lore of Fire guy and just thrown fireballs at my opponent. I think that might have been a better choice there. Alright, well, what we have to do here is try and crush his melee army before he can successfully kill my lord. He's got 3 targets that he's going to have to go for in the air, depending on how aggressive he wants to play this. If he wants to do a fight over my army, then I'm willing to oblige that, because I'll just be able to Spirit Leech whatever's fighting my Exalted Hero while my Exalted Hero is getting pounded on. He will get killed by Manfred and 2 vampires or whatever that people like to take, but I do think that he'll be able to hold on relatively okay. I think that if there's any matchup that I'm going to lose out of these 3, this is going to be it, easily. I think Bretonnia has a chance against Empire. I don't think it's a very good one, but I don't think that Chaos has any chance at all against Undead. I just think that Undead are really strong right now, and Chaos is really weak. And in particular, this matchup is not good for them either. Now, the one thing is that the Giants, I think, are going to become a useful feature of this fight, just because they are actually really decent at dealing damage, and if they're not being shot down by arrows, they can actually get a lot done. We're going to move our Forsaken sort of in the back here as a sort of longer flanking force. We're going to move all 3 of these guys sort of central here. So this is a kind of weird-ass army, but whatever. Alright, so Crypt Horrors, as per usual. We're going to try and go and kill them as fast as we possibly can. Looks like my opponent has indeed got his Wizard and Vampire. Looks like he's only got the 2, so he can't actually easily kill my general here. My Exalted Hero can tie them up in melee combat and be actually quite effective at that, and while I'm Spirit Leeching them. So if I'm doing that combo, then he either has to Spirit Leech something else, or he has to risk something going through, and he also has to Spirit Leech these Chaos Giants because they're not exactly that weak against those sorts of things. So we're going to move a unit of Forsaken out to this flank here. I'm going to move these Giants towards them so that they're not fighting this Chaff. Go. What the hell are these? Are those Chaos Knights? Or Black Knights? Holy crap. Alright, this is our Exalted Hero over here. And lag out the game so that it completely dies. Let's get you into there. So we managed to cast off that spell on his general, and now our Exalted Champion is heading towards him for combat. Let's move these guys into combat here. 2 units of Forsaken fighting Chaos Knights with lances and barding is going to go his way very, very much so. Let's continue hitting his general. Alright, and our giants, one of them is actually getting kind of wrecked, actually. I do think that, yeah, this is probably going to be a loss for us. Alright, so that unit's dissolved. We can get this unit around. Get into this fight with the support of that giant there. He does need the help. Need the range. Alright, so our front line has completely collapsed. It is gone now. Forsaken over here are doing a great job, though, of fighting there. One of our giants is free. Alright, so let's get those guys into that fight there. I do think that we're doing a pretty good job against these Crypt Horrors, all things considered. Looks like we've also killed this vampire. Our lord is still under attack. Looks like their general, though, is dead. Alright, so those Black Knights with barding are actually doing a lot worse than I thought they were going to be doing. We're going to go ahead and charge into them with our champion here. Enemy recently lost their general, and our giants are actually really cleaning house here. This one is doing poorly, but it's now it's being assisted by these Forsaken here. It's helped out quite a bit. These other units of Forsaken crashing in here is probably going to help quite a bit. Go ahead and use Fate of Bretonnia maybe on something. I might not even have to. Do it on these Chaos Knights with the barding there. Holy crap, we're gonna pull this off. Yeah, I think we're gonna pull this off. I want that effect there. Let's get all of these units of Chaos Marauders back into the fight. Let's charge them. Oh yeah, close victory. Holy shit. Okay. So, pro tip, Giants, supremely good against Undead. They don't have great counters against it. My opponent, I don't really know why he couldn't assassinate my general. I only had 1 Death Wizard, but he was getting zoned out a little bit by that Exalted Hero, especially chasing that Manfred von Karstein. Switched to aggro over to the Vampire when I got attacked by the Vampire, but, I mean, yeah, we did work on this fight. Like, this was a really interesting one. I'm gonna have to, like, look at those Forsaken kills. Holy shit. 133 kills, 203 kills. Like, they're killing zombies, but they also charged into the fight against the Crypt Horrors and the Hex Wraiths. These two are fighting against cavalry that are much, much more expensive than they are, much, much superior to them. Like, they're not a great counter against things like the Black Knight with lances, but they held their own pretty damn effectively, especially since the Crypt Horrors jumped in on that fight with them. Our Chaos Lord barely survived that. I don't know why he didn't kill him. The Chaos Sorcerer did a really good job there. I should have saved Fate of Bretonnia and used it on the Hex Wraiths early, or the Karen Wraiths early. Our Chaos Marauders did crap, but that's what you'd expect out of them. Giants, only 59 kills and 23 kills, but they're killing things like Crypt Horrors and Karen Wraiths, and those are very hard to kill. One of them, like, got to a sliver of health, but I still had a full health Chaos Giant, essentially. I cannot believe that worked as effectively as it did, but yeah, that's 3 straight wins, and it shows you sort of what people are taking right now and ways that I guess that you can beat it, air quotes. I think the second game was my loss. I'm going to admit that, so I'm going to say that I was 2 for 3, even though the records are going to show I was 3 for 3. I definitely think that I lost that second game, although who knows, maybe if Lone Leoncourt made it back into the fight, he would have had no real way to actually take that back from me, maybe. But anyway, I hope you found this video enjoyable, and of course, as always, I hope to see you all next time.